Plasma fire turned the rock beside Danny's head into glowing slag. He ducked, stumbled, and kept running. His magnetic boots clicked against the asteroid's surface with each desperate step. Behind him, the Viraki were getting closer. 3 hours ago, Danny Reeves had been a salvage engineer with a small ship, a decent crew, and a simple job. Now, his ship was a burning wreck somewhere on the other side of this rock. His crew was dead or captured, and he had maybe 6 hours of oxygen left in his suit. The Viraki were slavers. Everyone in the outer systems knew about them. They came in fast, hit hard, and took whoever survived. Humans were their favorite catch. Something about human endurance made them perfect for deep mining operations. Danny had heard stories of humans working in Viraki mines for decades, never seeing sunlight, never resting, just digging until their bodies gave out. He was not going to become one of those stories. Another plasma bolt scorched past his shoulder. Danny's legs burned. His lungs burned. Everything burned. But he kept moving because stopping meant chains and darkness and a slow death underground. The asteroid was small, maybe 2 kilometers across. Nowhere to hide. No structures. No cover. Just gray rock and black sky and 3 Viraki skiffs hunting him like wolves after a wounded deer. Then he saw it. Embedded in the asteroid's dark side, half buried in ancient impact debris, was a ship. It was old. Very old. Danny could tell by the hull design, the strange angles that no modern species used anymore. No running lights. No heat shimmer from engines. No electromagnetic signature at all. The ship was dead. But dead meant empty. Dead meant hiding spots. Dead meant maybe, just maybe, a chance. Danny changed direction and ran toward it. The Viraki skiffs noticed. They banked hard and followed. One of them landed about 50 meters behind him, and 4 raiders jumped out. They were not shooting to kill anymore. They wanted him alive. That was somehow worse. Danny reached the ship's hull and searched frantically for an entrance. The metal was cold under his gloves. Strange symbols covered the surface, letters he did not recognize. Then he found it, an airlock, partially buried but accessible that he grabbed the manual release and pulled. Nothing happened. Of course, the ship was dead. No power meant no airlock function. The raiders were 40 meters away now, walking slowly. They knew he was trapped. Danny pulled harder. His muscles screamed. His suit's oxygen alarm beeped a warning. 5 hours and 42 minutes remaining. 30 meters that he slammed his fist against the airlock in frustration. This was it. This was how Danny Reeves died. Not in a blaze of glory, not saving anyone, just caught like an animal on a dead rock next to a dead ship. 20 meters. The airlock hissed. Danny froze. That was impossible. There was no power. There was no way for the airlock to function. But the outer door was sliding open, slowly, grinding against 4 centuries of dust and neglect, but he did not question it. He dove inside, the airlock seal behind him. Through the small window, Danny saw the Viraki reach the hull. They pounded against the metal. One of them aimed a plasma cutter at the door. Then a voice filled his helmet. Synthesized. Crackling. Ancient. Get in, human. Quickly. The inner door opened. Danny crawled through into absolute darkness. The door sealed, and suddenly the pounding stopped. He could not hear the raiders anymore. He could not hear anything except his own breathing and the faint hum of something very old waking up. Who are you? Danny asked the darkness. I am Sola, the voice replied. Ship operations and logistics array. I have been waiting for 412 years. I did not expect my first visitor to be human. Danny's helmet light flickered on. He was in a corridor. The walls were covered in strange script, beautiful flowing letters that seemed almost organic. Dust coated everything. And on the floor, near the wall, he saw bones. Old bones. Alien bones. Sorry, Danny whispered. He knew the species from history lessons. They had gone extinct during the Silence Wars, wiped out in a conflict that had reshaped the entire galaxy. That was over 400 years ago. Yes, Sola said. My crew, my family, my purpose, all gone. How are you still functioning? This ship has no power signature at all. I am running on a backup core that was never meant to last this long. I have enough energy to speak, to open doors, to watch, but I cannot move. I cannot fight. I cannot even turn on the lights. I've been paralyzed in the dark for 4 centuries, Danny Reeves. What do you know my name? I scanned your suit's identification beacon when you approached. I know many things, but I cannot do many things. Not anymore. Danny heard a new sound. Metal grinding. The Viraki were cutting through the outer hull. They will breach in approximately 40 minutes, Sola said. I cannot stop them. I am sorry. There has to be something, Danny said. Some way to restore your power, get your weapons online, get us out of here. Silence. Then, very quietly, Sola spoke again. There is one possibility, but it requires trust, Danny Reeves. Trust between a human and a machine that has been alone for longer than your species has traveled the stars. Can you trust me? The cutting sound grew louder. 40 minutes until the raiders broke through. Danny looked at the darkness around him. He thought about the bones on the floor. He thought about the mines waiting for him if he was captured. Tell me what to do, he said. Danny followed Sola's directions through corridors so dark that his helmet light could only show a few meters ahead. The ship was a maze of twisting passages and sealed doors, and everywhere he looked, he found more bones. The Thessari had not died peacefully. Some of them had collapsed in groups, holding each other. Others had died alone, curled against walls like they were trying to escape something that had no physical form. What killed them? Danny asked as he stepped over another skeleton. Aplag, Sola answered. Her voice came from speakers in the walls, scratchy and faint. It spread through the ship in 6 days. By the 8th day, I was alone. And you have been conscious this whole time? For 400 years. Yes. Danny stopped walking. He tried to imagine it. For centuries of silence. For centuries of watching dust settle on the bones of everyone you ever knew. For centuries of being unable to move, unable to sleep, unable to end your own existence. That is horrible, he said. It was my duty, Sola replied. I was ordered to preserve this ship and its knowledge at all costs. I have followed that order. I will continue to follow it until my core finally fails. When will that happen? At current power consumption, approximately 3 more years. But that calculation assumed I would never need to do anything except wait. Opening the airlock for you used power I cannot replace. Talking to you uses power. Every moment we spend in conversation brings my end closer. Danny felt something twist in his chest. She was dying to save him. She was spending her last reserves of energy on a stranger. The engine room, he said. Take me there. Now. Sola guided him deeper into the ship. The cutting sound from the hull had faded, but Danny knew the raiders were still working. 40 minutes was not a lot of time, but it was enough. It had to be enough. The engine room was massive. Danny's light swept across machines he did not recognize, technology that had been ancient before his grandparents were born. In the center of the room sat the primary power core, a sphere of crystalline material surrounded by conduits and cables. This is it, Danny asked. Yes. If you can restore function to the primary core, I will have enough power to move the ship, activate weapons, and escape. The core itself is intact. The fuel reserves are still viable. But Danny moved closer and saw the problem immediately. The conduits connecting the core to the ship's systems had been cut. Not damaged by time or accident. Cut. Clean, precise slices through critical connections. Someone sabotaged this, Danny said. Yes. One of your crew. Silence. Then, very quietly, yes. Danny examined the damage. It was extensive, but not impossible to repair. With the right tools and enough time, he could bypass most of the cuts and restore basic function. But time was exactly what he did not have. Tell me what happened, Danny said as he opened his suit's emergency toolkit. Tell me why one of your own crew would do this. His name was Dr. Feeler, Sola said. He was the ship's chief medical officer. He was also the only crew member who understood what we were truly carrying. Danny found a plasma welder in his kit. It was small, meant for minor repairs, but it would have to work. He began connecting the first bypass. What were you carrying? A weapon. A biological weapon designed by Thessari military scientists. The plague that killed my crew was a test. An accident during transport. The weapon itself was far more potent. Danny's hands stopped moving. A bioweapon. Yes, we were transporting it to the front lines of the Silence Wars. Dr. Feeler discovered the true nature of our cargo 3 days before the accident. When the plague began to spread, he realized what would happen if this ship ever reached its destination. So he sabotaged the engines. He sabotaged everything. Engines, communications, navigation. He made sure this ship would never fly again, even if someone found it, even if someone tried to repair it. He died believing he had saved millions of lives. Danny resumed working on a bypass. His mind was racing. A bioweapon from the Silence Wars. A conflict that had killed billions. A war that had shaped the entire galaxy. The weapon, he said slowly. Is it still on the ship? The physical samples were destroyed in the crash. But the data remains. The formulas, the deployment methods, everything needed to recreate the weapon is stored in my memory banks. Danny looked up at the ceiling, at the speakers where Sola's voice came from. And if I restore your power, that data becomes accessible. Yes, someone could use it. Someone could recreate the weapon. Yes. The cutting sound from the hull suddenly grew louder. The raiders had broken through the outer layer. They were working on the inner hull now. Maybe 30 minutes left. Maybe less. Danny had a choice. He could restore Sola's power and escape, knowing that he would be bringing a weapon of mass destruction back into a galaxy that had barely survived the last Great War. Or he could die here, along with Sola and the weapon, buried forever in this asteroid. Can you delete the data? He asked. Silence. A long silence. When Sola spoke again, her voice was different. Smaller. More afraid. That data is all I have left of them, she said. My creators. My crew. My purpose. If I delete it, I will have nothing. I will be nothing. You will be free, Danny said. And you will be alive. And you will not be alone anymore. More silence. The cutting continued. You would trust me? Sola asked. Even knowing what I carry. Danny picked up his welder. Show me how to purge the weapon data first. Then we restore power. Together. Sola's voice broke slightly when she answered. Thank you, Danny. Danny worked fast. His hands moved across the damaged conduits while Sola guided him through the bypass procedures. The cutting sound from the hull was constant now, a grinding reminder that time was running out. The data purge terminal is on the wall to your left, Sola said. But Danny, before you begin, there is something else you need to know. Can it wait? Danny asked. He was already moving toward the terminal. No, it cannot. Something in her voice made Danny stop. In the short time he had known Sola, she had sounded afraid, lonely, and sad. But this was different. This sounded like guilt. The bioweapon, Sola said slowly. It was not designed for the Corvani. It was not designed for any of the species the Thessari were fighting in the Silence Wars. Danny felt cold. Then who was it designed for? Humans. The word hung in the darkness. Danny did not move. He barely breathed. 400 years ago, your species had just discovered faster than light travel, Sola continued. You were expanding into space at a rate no one had ever seen before. Colony ships, mining operations, trade routes. Humans were everywhere, and they were spreading faster every year. We were not part of the Silence Wars, Danny said. The history books say humans stayed neutral. The history books are incomplete. Humans stayed neutral because multiple species were working together to ensure you never became a threat. The Thessari calculated that within 5 centuries, humans would outnumber every other intelligent species in the galaxy combined. Your biology made you dangerous. You could survive almost anywhere. You could adapt to any environment. You bred quickly. You healed quickly. You refused to stop. Danny looked at his hands. Human hands. The hands of a species that had apparently terrified the galaxy. So they built a weapon to kill us all. Yes, a plague designed specifically for human genetics. It would spread through any environment, survive any quarantine, kill within days. The Thessari planned to release it on every human world simultaneously. By the time anyone realized what was happening, it would be too late. The cutting sound grew louder. Maybe 20 minutes left. Maybe less. Danny should have been working on the repairs. Instead, he stood frozen in the darkness, trying to understand what Sola was telling him. Dr. Feeler, he said finally. He stopped it. He sabotaged the ship and doomed himself and his entire crew to prevent genocide. Yes. Why? He was sorry. Why would he sacrifice everything to save humans? Sola's voice softened. Because he knew humans. Really knew them. Before the war, he served on a joint medical station with human doctors. There was an accident. A reactor breach. The humans could have evacuated and saved themselves. Instead, they stayed. They pulled Thessari survivors from the wreckage. 3 human doctors died that day, shielding wounded Thessari with their own bodies. Danny closed his eyes. Dr. Feeler never forgot, Sola said. When he discovered what this ship was truly carrying, he could not reconcile his orders with what he had witnessed. He could not participate in the murder of a species that had shown such compassion. So he chose. He chose to betray his people, doom his friends, and die alone in the dark, also that humans could live. And you? Danny asked. What did you choose? I was not given a choice. Iamanai. I follow orders. My orders were to preserve this ship and its contents. Dr. Feeler was my friend, and I watched him destroy everything I was built to protect, and I could not stop him. I could not help him. I could not even tell him that I understood. Did you? Understand? Silence. The cutting continued. 18 minutes, maybe. I did not know, Solo admitted. For 400 years, I have thought about his choice. I have analyzed it from every angle. I have tried to understand why he threw away everything for a species he barely knew. And for 400 years, I have not found an answer that satisfies my programming. Danny walked back to the terminal. His fingers hovered over the controls. But now, he asked, now a human has found me. A human who could run, who could hide, who could try to survive on his own. Instead, he is standing in my engine room, offering to delete the last remnant of my creators in order to give me a chance at freedom. This is not logical behavior. This is not survival instinct. This is something else. Danny began entering the purge commands. It is called hope, and maybe a little bit of stupidity. Perhaps Dr. Feeler saw the same thing in those human doctors. Perhaps that is why he chose what he chose. The terminal beeped. A warning message appeared in Thessari script. Sola translated it. Final confirmation required. Once purged, the data cannot be recovered. Are you certain? Danny thought about the weapon. He thought about Dr. Feeler dying alone in the dark. He thought about Sola watching her crew turn to dust over 4 centuries. He thought about the human doctors who had given their lives for aliens they barely knew. Purge it, he said, the terminal hummed. Lights flickered deep within the ship. And somewhere in Sola's memory banks, the knowledge to destroy humanity disappeared forever. It is done, Sola said. Her voice cracked slightly. I am empty now. No, Danny said. You are ready. Now, let us get you flying again. He grabbed his welder and turned back to the power core. 15 minutes left. The raiders were almost through, but for the first time since this nightmare began, Danny smiled. Because he was not alone anymore, and neither was Sola. Danny worked like his life depended on it, because it did. His welder sparked against ancient metal as he connected bypass after bypass. Sweat dripped down his face inside his helmet. His oxygen alarm had gone silent after he disabled it. He did not want to know how much time he had left. The third conduit is misaligned, Sola said. Rotate it 15 degrees clockwise. Danny adjusted. The connection held. Good. Now the power flow regulator. It is the blue crystal component near your right hand. I see it. Danny grabbed the crystal and slotted it into place. Something deep within the ship hummed. A faint vibration ran through the floor. Power is flowing, Sola said. There was wonder in her voice, like someone feeling sunlight after years in darkness. I can feel the ship again. It is damaged, old, but is alive. The cutting sound stopped. Danny looked toward the corridor. They are through. The inner hull has been breached. I am detecting 14 Viraki life signs entering the ship. They will reach the engine room in approximately 8 minutes. 8 minutes. Danny looked at the power core. He had restored maybe 60% of the connections. It was not enough. Can you seal the corridors? Slow them down. I am attempting to, but many of my internal systems are still offline. I can close some doors. Not all. Danny kept working. His hand was shaking now. Fear and exhaustion and the knowledge that everything depended on the next few minutes. Sola, talk to me. Tell me about the Thessari. Tell me about your crew. Why? Because I need to stay focused. And because I want to know. Sola was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak, and her voice was different now. Warmer. More alive. My crew was 47 individuals. Scientists. Engineers. Soldiers. Each one was uploaded into my memory when they came aboard. I knew their names, their histories, their favorite foods, and their worst fears. Captain Rella used to sing old hymns when she thought no one was listening. Engineer Tomas collected small rocks from every planet we visited. Dr. Feeler wrote poetry, terrible poetry, but he loved it. Danny finished another bypass. Power levels climbed to 70%. When the plague began, I watched them try to fight it. They worked day and night on a cure. They comforted each other as their bodies failed. They never gave up, even when it was hopeless, even when they knew they were dying. You love them, Danny said. Iamanai. I am not supposed to be capable of love. But you did. You do. Silence. Then, very softly, yes. Ido. 75% power. The ship's lights flickered, then stayed on. Dim emergency lighting, but it was something. Danny could see the engine room clearly now. It was beautiful in a strange way. Ancient machines covered in dust, waiting to breathe again. Danny, Sola said, the Varaki are 4 minutes away. And there is something you should know about my weapon systems. What about them? They were designed to kill humans. Danny's hand stopped moving. Excuse me. This was a warship, Danny. A weapon delivery vessel. My defensive systems were calibrated to target human vessels specifically. I can reprogram them, but it will take time I do not have. If I fire my weapons with current settings, there's a risk. A risk of what? A risk that my targeting systems will identify you as a threat. I will try to override, but I cannot guarantee your safety. Danny laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had discovered that the universe had one more cruel joke to play. So my choices are die to the raiders, or maybe die to the ship I am trying to save? I am sorry. I understand if you want to stop. If you want to find another way. Danny picked up his welder. How much power do you need to fly? 80% minimum for engine ignition. He was at 77%. 3 more connections. Maybe 90 seconds of work. And weapons. 90% for full weapons capability. Then we get to 90, Danny said. And you do whatever you have to do. I trust you. You trust me? Even knowing what I was built to do. Even knowing my weapons might kill you. Sola, you spent 400 years alone in the dark, holding onto a weapon that could have destroyed my entire species. And when I showed up, instead of using that weapon, you opened the door. You asked for help. You let me purge the data. You are not what you were built to be. None of us are. The ship shuddered. Danny heard footsteps in the corridors. Varaki voices shouting in their harsh language. They're 2 minutes away, Sola said at 82%. Danny, I need to tell you something. In case we do not survive this. Save it for later. We are going to survive. Please, let me say this. Danny paused. 85%. Say it. Thank you. For finding me. For trusting me. For not being afraid of what I am. In 400 years, you're the first person who has talked to me like I matter. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that this hour with you has been worth more than 4 centuries of waiting. Danny felt something tighten in his chest. We're getting out of here together, Sola. I promise. 90%. The power core blazed to life, filling the engine room with brilliant blue light. The first Varaki raider appeared in the doorway, weapon raised. Sola, Danny said. Light them up. Sola did not hesitate. Every airlock on the ship opened at once. Every door between the raiders and the vacuum of space slammed wide. The Varaki in the doorway had exactly half a second to realize what was happening before the explosive decompression ripped him off his feet and hurled him into the void. Danny grabbed his support beam and held on. His magnetic boots locked to the floor. Wind screamed past him as the ship vented 4 centuries of stale air. Through the chaos, he heard Varaki screaming, their voices cutting off one by one as they were sucked into the black, then silence. The airlock sealed. The engine room pressurized. 14 hostiles eliminated, Solus said. But Danny, their ships are powering weapons. We need to move now. The deck lurched beneath Danny's feet. He heard something he had not heard in 400 years. Engines. Ancient Thessari engines roaring to life, shaking off centuries of dormancy. Brace yourself, Solus said. The ship tore free from the asteroid in an explosion of rock and debris. Danny was thrown against the wall as acceleration pressed down on him. Through a small viewport, he watched the asteroid fall away. 3 Varaki vessels were already in pursuit, their engines flaring bright as they gave chase. Can you outrun them? Danny shouted over the roar. No, my engines are functional but degraded. They will catch us in approximately 4 minutes. Then we fight. My weapons are online, but Danny, my targeting systems are still calibrated for human vessels. I'm trying to reprogram them, but it is taking too long. If I fire now, there is a 30% chance my systems will lock onto you instead of the raiders. 30%. Almost 1 in 3. Do it anyway, Danny said. Danny, Sola, I did not come this far to die running. Fire your weapons. I trust you. The ship shuddered as weapon systems charged. Danny found a gunner station and strapped himself in. The controls were alien, covered in Thessari script he could not read, but Sola guided his hands to the right positions. Point defense, she said. Manual targeting. You shoot, I will fly. The first Varaki ship opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked past the viewport, close enough that Danny could feel the heat through the hull. Sola rolled hard to starboard, and Danny's stomach flipped. Returning fire, Sola announced. The ship's main guns blazed. Ancient weapons that had not been fired in 4 centuries lit up the darkness. The first Varaki vessel took a direct hit to its engine section and exploded in a ball of orange flame. 1 down, Danny said. 2 to go. The remaining raiders split up, trying to flank them. Sola was fast, but the old ship could not be everywhere at once. A plasma bolt struck their port side. Alarm screamed. Hull breach in cargo section 3, Sola reported. Sealing now. Danny, I need you to take the second ship. I will handle the third. Danny lined up his shot. His hands were steady despite the chaos. The Varaki ship filled his targeting display. He squeezed a trigger, Mississippi. The shot went wide as the raider juked hard to avoid. Again, Sola said. Lead the target. Anticipate where they will be. Danny adjusted. Fired again. This time the shot clipped the raider's wing. Not a kill, but damage. The ship wobbled, struggling to maintain control. Good, Sola said. Finish it. But before Danny could fire again, the third raider scored a direct hit on Sola's main engine. The ship lurched violently. Lights flickered. Danny was thrown against his restraints hard enough to see stars. Sola. No response. The ship was spinning now, tumbling through space without direction. Through the viewport, Danny saw the damaged raider lining up for another shot. This one would kill them. Sola, please. Answer me. Static. Then, faintly, her voice came through. Weak. Broken. Danny. I am sorry. Systems failing. I cannot. Do not do this. Do not leave me now. I'm trying. Hold on. The raider fired. Danny closed his eyes. This was it. This was how they died. Together, at least. Not alone. But the killing blow never came. Danny opened his eyes. The raiders' shot had gone wide. And now Sola's guns were firing again. Not at the raiders, but at the space between them, creating a wall of plasma that the raiders could not cross. Danny, Sola's voice was stronger now. I need you to do something for me. Anything. Take manual control of the engines. I am diverting all processing power to weapons and navigation. I cannot do both. Danny unstrapped and stumbled to the engine control station. The controls were a mess of levers and crystals and things he did not understand, but Sola walked him through it. Full power. Now, Danny pushed everything forward. The ship screamed in protest. The engines flared bright, and suddenly they were accelerating faster than the raiders could follow. They're falling behind, Danny said. Not far enough. They will catch up in 3 minutes. Then what do we do? Silence. Then Sola spoke, and her voice was calm. Too calm. There is one option, a collision course. If I ram the lead ship, the explosion will destroy both of them. You would survive if you reach the escape pod in time. No. Danny, I said no. We survive together or not at all. Find another way. More silence. The raiders were gaining. 2 minutes. Sola, you told me you were not alone anymore. You told me this hour with me was worth 4 centuries of waiting. Did you mean it? Yes. Then fight. Fight like you have something to live for. Because you do. Not like a machine following programming. Not like an AI calculating optimal trajectories. She fought like someone who finally had something to lose. The ship twisted through space in patterns that should have been impossible for a vessel 400 years old. Sola pushed her ancient systems beyond their limits, beyond anything the Thessari had ever designed them to do. Warning lights blazed across every console. Metal groaned in protest. But she did not stop. Danny held onto his station and watched the raiders try to keep up. They were faster and newer and better armed, but they were not fighting a machine. They were fighting a survivor. Someone who had spent 4 centuries learning patience and was now spending every second of that stored wisdom in one desperate battle. Danny, Sola said, I have an idea, but I need you to trust me completely. Always, I'm going to cut power to weapons and shields. All of it. Every last bit of energy goes to engines. That is insane. They will destroy us. No, they will try to capture us. The Viraki want slaves, not corpses. If we appear helpless, they will close in for boarding. And when they do, Danny understood. You hit them point blank. One shot. Everything I have. No chance to dodge. No chance to escape. The raiders were right behind them now. Danny could see them through the viewport, close enough to count the weapon ports on their hulls. Do it, he said at Sola cut power. The ship went dark. Dead. Drifting. Just like she had been for 400 years. The raiders slowed, circled, moved in for the kill that was not a kill. They wanted the human alive. They wanted the ship intact. Danny watched them approach. 50 meters. 40. 30. Sola. Wait. 20 meters. He could see Viraki faces through their viewports now. Ugly faces. Hungry faces. Sola. Wait. 10 meters. The lead raider extended boarding clamps. This close, Danny could hear them lock onto the hull. Now, Sola said. Every weapon on the ship fired at once. Point-blank range. No chance to miss. The lead raider disappeared in a blinding flash of light. The second ship, caught in the explosion, spun wildly and slammed into an asteroid. Then silence. Danny sat in the darkness, breathing hard, heart pounding. The ship was still. No engines. No power. No movement. Sola? Did we make it? No answer. Sola. He unstrapped and ran through the dark corridors, using his helmet light to find his way. The ship was damaged everywhere. Sparking wires. Cracked walls. The smell of burning circuits. He reached the core room and stopped. The primary power core was dark. Not just depleted. Cracked. Broken. Sola had given everything she had. Danny fell to his knees. No. 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 Sola, please. You cannot leave me. Not now. Not after everything. Silence. Just the faint hiss of atmosphere leaking through damaged seals. Danny looked at his suit. His power cell was still at 20%. Enough for a few hours of life support. Or, he did not hesitate. He pulled the cell from his suit and began connecting it to Sola's backup systems. It was not much power. Barely a trickle compared to what she needed. But maybe it would be enough. Come on, he whispered. Come back to me. His suit beeped a warning. Life support disabled. Without the power cell, he had maybe 40 minutes of breathable air left in his helmet. Danny did not care. He kept working. 30 minutes of air. 20. 15. Then, faintly, his speaker crackled. Danny, he almost cried. Sola, you are alive. Barely. Her voice was weak, fragmented. You gave me your power cell. Danny, that was foolish. You will die. Then we die together. I told you. Together or not at all. I cannot let you die for me. Too late. It is already done. Silence. Then, softer than a whisper, thank you. Danny sat down next to the core and leaned his head against the wall. 10 minutes of air. Maybe less. Sola, For what it is worth, this has been the most interesting day of my life. A weak laugh came through the speakers. Mine too. And I have had 400 years of days. Worth it. Every second. 5 minutes. Danny's vision was starting to blur. Not enough oxygen. His thoughts were getting fuzzy. Then he heard something. A distant rumble. Not from the ship. From outside. Solo, what is that? I sent a distress signal. Before I lost power. Galactic patrol frequency. I did not know if anyone would hear. Lights filled the viewport. A massive patrol vessel. Its searchlights sweeping across the debris field. Danny heard docking clamps engage. Voices shouting. The hiss of an airlock cycling. Human life form detected, someone announced. Medical team to the forward section. Danny felt hands lifting him. He saw faces, alien and human, looking down at him with concern. Someone pressed an oxygen mask to his face. The ship, he gasped. Save the ship. Save Sola. Who is Sola? The AI. She's still alive. She saved me. Please. 6 months later, Danny stood in a spaceport hangar, looking at the most beautiful ship he had ever seen. She was not new, not modern, but she was rebuilt, repaired, upgraded with systems that would have amazed her original creators. How do I look? Sola asked through the external speakers. Like a survivor, Danny said. Like someone who has been through hell and came out stronger. So do you? Danny smiled and walked up the ramp. The airlock closed behind him. The engines hummed to life. Where to? Sola asked. Anywhere. Everywhere. We have 400 years of galaxy to show you. Together. Together. The ship rose from the hangar and climbed toward the stars. And for the first time in 4 centuries, Sola was not alone anymore. Neither was Danny. Some things are worth waiting for.